If you've read or played last year's D&D campaign, The Tomb of Annihilation, then you will have come across references to the city of Mezro. The book itself, however, offers very little detail on the city itself, as it had seemingly been destroyed by a spell plague and its ruins had been thoroughly looted. None of that is true, however. Mezro has instead been hidden away by the Barae in a pocket dimension, safe and sound. This isn't the first time that Mezro is hidden away from the world. Even before the dimensional shift, the city possessed a magical barrier it could erect in times of need, that made it appear to be just empty jungle, and that would cast confusion upon any who would approach the city. So you might be asking yourself, why would I need to know about Mezro if it's no longer in the world, and there is no way to find it? Well, for one, Mezro was a hugely important city in Chult, and it had a huge impact on the rest of the continent. Many of those effects still linger, and so learning about Mezro might help you understand Chult at large better. Secondly, Mezro is poised to return to the material plane. In Tomb of Annihilation, the powerful Naga sage Zajanabasa foretells that once Raznizi has been destroyed, the city will return. While it is possible to go through Tomb of Annihilation without slaying him, chances are that he will be quite dead by the end of the campaign, so once it's over, Mezro should be back. Which means that a visit to the Sacred City might be the next thing your group of adventurers find themselves doing after beating the campaign. And then we also have the fact that in Tomb of Annihilation you run into Arthur Cimber, whose wife is trapped in the Lost City, and who has a fairly extensive knowledge about the place. I don't know about how your players will react when they learn that fact, but mine were quite curious to hear what he knew of Mezro. And lastly, there is always the fact that your campaign might not take place in the current age. If you're playing in a previous edition of D&D, then Mezro is still very much relevant. First thing you should know about Mezro is that it wasn't founded by mortals. It was originally built by the god Ubtao to serve as a place where his chosen people could come and learn from his wisdom, so that they might better navigate through the maze that is mortal life, and to learn the secrets of the world and of all of existence. Ubtao built the temple that stands in the center of the city himself, as well as the amphitheater that is the center for culture in Mezro. And for a long while he dwelt in the city and guided his people. After some time, however, it became clear that far too many who came to the city did not seek enlightenment. Instead, they wanted help with mundane problems, and their constant pleas for help from Ubtao distracted him in his work. So he created 7 super paladins, the Barae, who could deal with the day-to-day problems that arose. The Barae could be killed on the battlefield, but they were essentially immortal beings with some extremely powerful special abilities. But these people still complained and wanted Ubtao to fix all their problems, so one day he simply left, proclaiming that he would only speak to his people once they came into the afterlife. It might seem a bit harsh, but from Ubtao's perspective, life is a maze, and your problems are the walls. How you navigate your maze shows you who you truly are. In effect, we are defined by our actions and our choices, so if Ubtao would fix all the problems like his people wanted him to, then it would render living pointless. No one would ever truly find themselves. After he left, the Barae, who had already taken over the responsibility of managing the city, became his rulers. Like I mentioned earlier, there are 7 Barae. When one dies, another is chosen by Ubtao to take their place. From my research leading up to the running of Tomb of Annihilation, I came across the names of the 7 Barae that served some 130 years ago, during the 2nd edition. I have little reason to believe any of them have changed, but I might have missed something that happened during 3rd edition. The first of the Barae is King Oza I. He holds the title of Nigus Nigusti, which is Chultan for Prince of Princes. Although immortal, he appears to be an old man of perhaps 80, which makes me wonder if he was that old when he became a Bara of Ubtao, or if they just aged really slowly. I guess he was just really old when he was chosen, though, since Raznizi is older than him, but still looks fairly young. Ozawa is rather old, though. He is at least 1,500 years old, and he can remember everything that happened during his long life. Because his special ability is perfect recollection. He can also be recognized by ceremonial garb. He always wears platinum bracers and a circlet, which marks him as Prince of Princes and King of Mezro. The second Bara is Prince Qualu, who appeared to be a young and handsome man who always kept his well-used work club close at hand. The prince should actually be closer to 250 in the current age, and when outsiders show up and start causing trouble, he's usually the Bara who deals with them. He has the rather nasty special power of being able to summon and control huge swarms of locusts that eat everything or everyone in their way. The third Bara is Lord Dlamas Rayburton, who is the only non-Chultan to pass for trials and required to become a Bara. He's one of the older Barae, having joined them some 12 or 1300 years ago, and he looks the part, appearing as an old man with silver and white hair and beard. His special power is that he understands all languages, and he has a magical ability to convince others when debating for the well-being of Mezro. The fourth Bara is Lord Rayburton's daughter, Alessandra Rayburton, who is kind and quick to laugh at her. She is the wife of Arthur Cimber, so perhaps the Bara who is most relevant to the events of Tomb of Annihilation. Her special power is that she can go into a trance and take control of any warm-blooded creature, which, by the way, includes dinosaurs, at least in Forgotten Realms. The fifth Bara is a bit weird. She is called Mainu, and she holds sway over the river Oolong. Mainu doesn't have a humanoid form, instead she appears as a patch of darkness in the water that can take temporary shapes, such as that of a woman or a huge piranha. The only thing that doesn't change is her eyes. They are described as being golden and glow. She holds her own court beneath the waves and insists on being treated like a queen. In a chamber that is enchanted so normal humanoids can breathe underwater there, her special power grants her control over all of the creatures and the water in the river Oolong within 10 miles of Mezro. The last Bara who lives in Mezro is Fipia. When she was chosen, she was just 15 years old, although now she would probably be closer to 150. She was a shy girl and a bit unsure of herself, being overwhelmed by the responsibilities of the Barae. She looked up to Prince Qualo and tried to follow the example of the other Bara. Her unique power was that she could control all plants within Mezro and rejuvenate the land. The final Bara is probably the most famous, or rather infamous, Ras Nizi, or Duke Nizi, as Ras is Chultan for Duke. He is also the reason that we know that Mezro was never destroyed. The Barae are linked to the city of Mezro. Should it ever be destroyed, they would turn to dust. Ras Nizi, however, is still very much around. He is also the only remaining member of the original Barae chosen by Ubtao when he created their kind. Being one of the original Barae, he is also one of the most powerful. He possessed the power to raise the dead at will, giving him a near-endless supply of powerful and loyal troops. He's not welcome back in Mezro, however. Some 15 or 1600 years ago, the people of Mezro were at war with another tribe in Chult, the Esho. After the people of Mezro won the final battle and their enemy fled, Ras Nizi decided to wipe them out so that they could never threaten Mezro again. With his undead army, he hunted down and killed every single Esho on the continent. The other Barae were shocked by what he did and banished him. An interesting note here, if you were banished from Mezro, you would receive a brand on your forehead in the shape of a triangle. Now, for anyone who has played Tomb of Annihilation, you might recognize that as the symbol of Ras Nizi, but it actually started as a way to identify those that were not welcome back to Mezro. So let's talk about what the actual city of Mezro looks like. Well, the city itself is circular in shape and is divided into 4 quarters, with a central plaza in the middle of the city where you have the Temple of Ubtao. A massive building, it's 9 stories tall, and it's a little hard to get a good grip on its appearance. Not too surprising considering it was built by a god. In maps I've seen, the temple has a bit of a cog-like shape, and is described as having flying buttresses, like there's those freestanding arches that you see in Gothic cathedrals, and huge rows of stained glass windows. And the temple is topped by a huge golden dome. So far so good. It's the next part where things get a little bit weird. You see in the description of the temple it's mentioned that it appears as if the temple only has a single wall, and no matter from what angle you look at the temple, it looks exactly the same. So that means that there's sort of an optical illusion effect on the temple, where it basically looks like a 2D sprite that turns to face you no matter how you move. Which means flying over a temple would look very confusing. The walls of a great temple are made up of interlocking triangle sheets of crystal. Anyone who looks directly into them risks becoming enchanted and cannot look away from a crystal as they see whatever they desire the most in their lives inside of it. Only by physically turning a person away from a crystal can a spell be broken. So basically the entire temple is built out of mirrors of Erised. Only one door leads into the temple itself, and it goes into a huge hallway filled with statues of all the Barae that has served the city in the past. At the end of the hallway there is an arch, and by passing through it and thinking of a location within the temple, you are taken to that room. Also, should you speak Ras Nizi's name out loud in the hallway, you will instead be teleported to a place within 1 mile of the evil warlord. So that could actually be a different way for your party to find the lost city of Omo, if you're playing Tomb of Annihilation. The temple houses clergy who offer healing services, but it also serves as the home of the king and the Barae, and is the center for Mezro's government. Then we have the 4 districts of Mezro. The first quarter is the agriculture quarter, which is in the southeastern part of town. The entire district is dedicated to farms and plantations. Magical enchantments in the soil allows the city to grow vast amounts of fruits and vegetables of many different kinds. Not only food plants such as maize, but also medicinal herbs and other useful plants. The district is also where the city keeps its livestock and its apiaries that are responsible for creating the vast amounts of honey required to supply the city of Mezro with tage. Dinosaurs and other animals tend to wander into the district, so the farmers have grown accustomed to this, and so most farmers carry a spear as they tend to their lands to be able to drive off rowdy dinos. Next we have the market quarter in the northwest part of town. This is the part of town that outsiders and travelers will most likely be spending most of their time in. Mezro sported many fine inns before it disappeared, often catering to traders and pilgrims. Almost any wares or crafts could be found in the bazaars of Mezro, although heavy armors and northern weapons were rare. Products and services in the Holy City were generally a little bit more expensive than they would be in mainland Faerun, but not significantly so. The market quarter is also home to the amphitheater of Mezro, which was built by Ubtao himself. The amphitheater was the center of entertainment in the city and hosted numerous plays. And it also had the famed dinosaur races of Mezro, a tradition that Port Nyansaru has taken over in modern times. Then we have the residential quarter in the southwestern area of town, where the majority of the 15,000 citizens of Mezro lived. The entire quarter was designed like a vast maze of streets and alleys between the typical adobe-style homes of Chultans. The maze-like shape of the district served 2 functions. Firstly, it served a religious function. Mazes are holy to Ubtao, an analogy for mortal existence. Secondly, the mazes served a defensive function. When the city was under attack, its people would fall back into the quarter, and pursuers would be hard-pressed to follow. As such, strangers without good reason to visit the district were rarely welcomed, and would usually find themselves escorted out by guards unless they could prove that they had reason for their visit. The last district was in the northeastern part of the city, and was known as the Scholars' Quarter. The entire section of the city was dedicated to learning, housing countless schools and the famed library of Mezro. The library was a massive building filled with the accumulated knowledge of the last 1500 years of Mezroan history, and also had countless works of great art. The most famous school was probably the College of Wizards, which also served as a library for texts on magic and held vast amounts of scrolls and magical tomes. Only students and those with special permission from a ruler of Mezro were allowed to access its arcane secrets. All kinds of other learning could be done within the district, however. It was there that the city trained its soldiers, and one could take courses to learn knowledge hard to find outside of Chult, such as how to speak Chultan, dinosaur handling, or the finer points of jungle survival. I think I've covered most of the lore surrounding the lost city of Mezro. Let me know if I missed anything, or if there was something more you would have liked to know. If your group is playing through Tomb of Annihilation and managed to stop the Death Curse, and more specifically defeat Razni, then one of the great consequences of their actions could be the return of the Holy City. The sudden appearance of one of the greatest centers of culture and learning in the region, if not all of Faerun, could have vast effects on the future of your campaign, so I hope my little video helped. As always, if you enjoyed my video, then consider leaving a like. It brightens my day each time I see someone appreciate my work. And if you want to support the channel, please share this video with your friends or on social media. It really helps out a lot. And you can also check out my DM's Guild page or follow me on Tumblr or Twitter. Until next time, Dungeon Delvers.